Yeah.
Nas Ether Jay-Z. We all were there for
Oh
that.
my
That
God.
happened. And Jay-Z's still Jay-Z.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more videos. The modern era of the Drake-Kendrick conflict cannot be discussed without acknowledging how other rivalries reshaped its trajectory. Drake did not reveal his son Adonis willingly. That revelation came through Pusha T's The Story of Adidon, a diss track that exposed Drake's hidden child in humiliating detail. The record reset the rules of engagement in hip-hop beef. Family was no longer off-limits. Privacy was no longer respected. While Drake was dealing with that fallout, Kendrick Lamar was ascending into a different artistic stratosphere. Albums like Damn earned him a Pulitzer Prize, cementing his reputation as a generational artist whose work transcended hip-hop itself. Mr. Morale the Big Steppers continued that trajectory, filled with layered commentary about authenticity, morality, and the cost of fame, along with veiled critiques of artists who prioritize commercial success over artistic truth. Meanwhile, Drake's 2022 project contained lines many analysts interpreted as subliminal shots at Kendrick's approach to music and public image. The tension never disappeared. It simply waited. Then March 2024 arrived, and everything detonated. Kendrick Lamar appeared on Like That, a track by Future and Metro Boomin, and rejected the entire concept of hip-hop's so-called Big Three. No diplomacy. No ambiguity. His message was blunt: it's just Big Me. That single verse ignited the most aggressive lyrical exchange hip-hop had seen in decades. Drake fired back with push-ups and tailor-made freestyle, the latter crossing a dangerous new line by using AI-generated voices of Tupac Shakur and Snoop Dogg. The move was immediately condemned. Tupac's estate threatened legal action, calling it a violation of the late rapper's legacy. Drake was forced to remove the track within days. Kendrick responded with Euphoria, a 6-minute character assassination accusing Drake of manipulation, moral hypocrisy, and emotional absence as a father. Then came 616 in LA. Then Meet the Grahams, a song that crossed previously unthinkable boundaries by addressing Drake's parents and his young son directly. Finally, Not Like Us dropped like a cultural weapon. The track didn't just dominate streaming platforms, it infiltrated sports arenas, award shows, and public consciousness. It became unavoidable. By the time the 2025 Grammys arrived, the outcome of the battle felt predetermined. Kendrick didn't just win awards, he stood at the center of a moment that symbolized total cultural victory. And yet, even now, the most important takeaway isn't who won lyrically. It's what this feud represents. The Drake-Kendrick battle exists in an era where AI can fabricate reality, misinformation can move faster than fact, and public perception can be manipulated with terrifying precision. The fake footage wasn't an anomaly, it was a symptom.
And now that it's happened, I'm like, wow, I didn't want this at all.
And
this is dark.
And it seems like this one, how many songs did they release so far?
I think they're both at like 3 or 4. I think they're both at 3.
That is so crazy.
They're both at 4. They're
8 songs, 4 each.
4.
So, where does this saga go from here? That question hangs over the entire situation, casting a shadow on everyone involved, whether professionally, personally, or tangentially. The accusations made in these tracks, especially the ones implying criminal behavior involving minors, aren't the sort of statements that simply fade with time. They remain permanently embedded in the public record, accessible to anyone with an internet connection, searchable and shareable, ensuring their impact lingers indefinitely. Drake's reputation suffered damage that no amount of streaming numbers, commercial success, or favorable legal rulings can entirely repair. Meanwhile, Lamar's dominance in this battle feels comprehensive and total, measured across every conceivable metric: critical acclaim, streaming records, awards, and cultural influence. Yet, even a seemingly complete victory in a rap feud cannot fully satisfy when the fallout has dragged innocent children and families into the public eye. Individuals who never asked to be involved yet were subjected to millions of strangers' scrutiny and speculation. As for the so-called hidden fight footage, it remains exactly what it always was: a hoax from the outset. It was engineered to generate clicks, leverage engagement, and exploit an online ecosystem already flooded with deep fakes, fabricated stories, and manufactured controversy. No law enforcement agency, no credible eyewitness account, and no reputable media outlet has ever substantiated a physical confrontation between these two artists at any point during their more than decade-long rivalry. Despite the intensity of the feud and the personal nature of many of the accusations, the conflict has remained entirely verbal and musical, confined to the realm of diss tracks, lyrics, and strategic public statements. Both artists continue to thrive professionally, releasing music and performing to sold-out audiences who pay premium prices for the experience. The legal battles grind on, progressing through the courts at their own deliberate pace, yet no punches have been thrown, no physical altercations have occurred, and no hidden footage exists, because, simply put, there is nothing to hide. So that wraps up this deep dive into one of the most intense rivalries in modern hip-hop. But don't go anywhere just yet. There's plenty more heat, analysis, and insider breakdowns coming your way. Tap any of the cards on your screen right now and stay locked in for the next story. The saga is far from over.
Now I do notice hanging out with you, you do like lyrics. You're a lyric, like whether it be rap or anything.
Yeah.
Like it's what the person's kind of talking about usually that gets you going.
I just love clever lyrics, like I love a clever joke, you know?
During his acceptance speech, Lamar emphasized community, collaboration, and mutual respect over personal conflict, delivering remarks that felt both deliberate and deeply meaningful to those observing. He took the time to acknowledge and celebrate his fellow nominees, including artists such as Pusha T, Tyler, The Creator, and Clips, rather than taking any indirect shots at absent rivals or revisiting the highly publicized beef that had dominated the previous year. This approach did not go unnoticed. Fans across social media interpreted it as a sign of artistic growth and personal maturity, a clear departure from the aggressive and cutting bars he had released throughout 2024, when the feud had reached its peak intensity and new diss tracks emerged almost every week. The GNX album itself mirrored this evolution in approach. While it included subtle references to resilience, cultural pride, and the struggles of navigating fame and rivalry, elements that attentive listeners could pick up on, the record avoided any direct disses that might have reignited the conflict unnecessarily. Lamar's restraint communicated a powerful message. He had already proved his point comprehensively and decisively. There was no longer any need to continue attacking a defeated opponent, especially one who had already been publicly humiliated. By choosing reflection, celebration, and acknowledgement of peers over perpetuating conflict, Lamar reinforced both his cultural authority and personal maturity, showing that true victory in a rivalry is as much about restraint and strategy as it is about lyrical skill or commercial dominance.
What happens if Kendrick Lamar and Drake run into each other in the wild?
Oh, Drake would destroy that little guy.
Yeah, he's a tiny little dude.
He's a tiny little dude.
But what if Kendrick is expecting that? So he comes prepared.
One of the most disturbing aspects of the Drake-Lamar rivalry was the direct involvement of family members, which escalated the conflict from a competitive musical battle into something far more personal and consequential. Drake's young son, Adonis, became an unwilling participant in the feud, mentioned repeatedly in diss tracks and public commentary. Similarly, Lamar's allegations regarding hidden children that Drake may have fathered secretly added another layer of intensity, involving private matters that had never been intended for public scrutiny. Beyond the children, both artists launched pointed attacks at each other's parents, dissecting their life choices, personal reputations, and moral character in ways that went far beyond typical rap bravado. These attacks were not abstract or metaphorical. They were directly targeted at real individuals, amplifying the stakes far beyond entertainment. In the context of hip-hop, where exaggeration and theatricality are often accepted as part of lyrical expression, this particular series of attacks crossed into deeply personal territory, forcing audiences and industry observers alike to recognize that this was a feud with tangible human consequences. Words spoken about innocent children, individuals who had no agency or involvement in the conflict, cannot simply be dismissed as competitive exaggeration. Similarly, allegations of predatory behavior toward minors cannot be treated lightly or rationalized as part of standard hype or marketing tactics. These statements had a lasting impact on public perception, shaping not only the narrative of the beef itself, but also the fundamental way fans and critics understood Drake as both an artist and a human being. The reputational damage stemming from these attacks extended far beyond Grammy counts or streaming numbers, penetrating the very core of how Drake was viewed by the public, media, and industry insiders. Discussions about his personal integrity, credibility, and potential threat to others became interwoven with commentary about his artistry, creating a scenario in which his professional achievements could not be considered in isolation from the controversy surrounding his private life. By February 2026, the ripple effects of Lamar's strategic and highly publicized criticisms were fully apparent, as Lamar returned to the Grammys for the 68th annual ceremony with 9 new nominations, largely stemming from his surprise November 2025 album GNX. The album, released with virtually no prior promotion, immediately captured the cultural zeitgeist, dominating social media conversations, streaming playlists, and critical discussions within hours of its release. Lamar's ability to convert 5 of these nominations into wins brought his career total to 27 Grammys, surpassing Jay-Z's previous record of 24 and officially making him the most awarded rapper in Grammy history. A distinction that carries historical significance and cements his legacy within the industry in a likely insurmountable way.
So, you advise that Drake leave Kendrick alone in his new music. Do you think that's gonna happen?
Nah, but when I mean leave him alone, We got to leave the moment. There's no more direct engaging. We ain't no more diss songs. It's over. So he's supposed to sneak
the Kendrick Lamar, Drake beef spawned an unprecedented proliferation of fabricated content, further complicating what fans perceived as reality. The feud created a fertile environment where fake tracks, doctored videos, and AI-generated audio could circulate unchecked, often gaining traction faster than legitimate releases. One prominent example was a track titled One Shot, which rapidly spread across streaming platforms and social media channels. Initially attributed to Lamar himself, it was later confirmed to be entirely AI-generated, with no involvement from the artist or his team. The revelation caused shockwaves across fan communities, but by that point, the track had already influenced perceptions of Lamar's ongoing narrative in the feud. Suspicion quickly extended to other tracks as well. Push UPS, eventually confirmed as authentic, was frequently juxtaposed against songs like BBL Drizzy, an AI parody so convincingly produced that it achieved viral popularity. Its unexpected appeal led producers Metro Boomin and eventually Drake himself to incorporate elements of the parody into official releases, blurring the lines between fan-made content and sanctioned work. Another track, W. Guandalila, emerged and immediately triggered speculation regarding AI involvement, though no conclusive determination was ever made. Fans and analysts were left in a state of constant uncertainty, never knowing which pieces of content reflected genuine artistry and which were manipulative fabrications. This uncertainty became a defining feature of the beef itself, shaping the ways in which audiences consumed, interpreted, and debated every release from both camps. This chaotic mix of authentic and artificial content explains why the purported hidden fight footage between Lamar and Drake found such a receptive audience and spread so explosively across platforms, despite lacking any credible sourcing or verification. Over months of scrutiny, fans had been trained to interrogate every single track, dissecting bars line by line to evaluate their authenticity. They had seen AI-generated voices convincingly simulate deceased rappers and witnessed these clips shared millions of times as though they were factual. Observers had even watched both artists admit, in various interviews and social media posts, to deliberately planting false information designed to provoke or mislead their rival. Within this ecosystem of calculated misinformation, the concept of actual suppressed footage of a physical altercation seemed entirely plausible. In an environment where reality was so frequently manipulated, it was not unreasonable to believe that some genuine confrontation could have occurred behind closed doors and been deliberately concealed. Closer technical analysis of the viral clip, however, leaves little room for doubt regarding its artificial nature. Frame-by-frame examination reveals numerous inconsistencies, including irregular lighting and unnatural facial movements that would be highly unlikely in genuine spontaneous footage. The audio track also raises red flags. It does not correspond with the ambient noise one would expect from a crowded Grammy after-party or backstage area, locations historically bustling with dozens of bystanders. The dialogue, overly dramatic and delivered with a scripted cadence, further signals staged performance rather than genuine spontaneous conflict. Real confrontations, particularly when emotions run high, unfold with erratic timing, overlapping speech, and chaotic physical cues. By contrast, this footage reads as highly orchestrated, more akin to a parody scene than an authentic escalation of a feud.
Would you go on a business deal that you got another game?
Well, wait, hold on. I feel when he beat Meek Mill, it raised him up a notch. Back to Back was a big song in his career. I feel it was one of his biggest songs.
DJ Academics, widely regarded as one of Drake's most vocal and influential media allies, and a commentator who had consistently defended the rapper throughout the escalating feud, offered strategic counsel in the wake of the Grammys. He recommended that Drake adopt a measured, calculated approach similar to that famously used by Jay-Z in his own public disputes. Instead of responding impulsively to Kendrick Lamar's victory or engaging in immediate, highly visible retaliation, DJ Academics advised that Drake allow the moment to pass quietly, effectively letting the public perception of loss fade over time. The suggested tactic was to bury subtle disses within future musical releases, as opposed to launching open, confrontational attacks that would perpetuate the narrative of defeat. This approach relied on the principle of delayed impact, allowing any artistic retorts to hit harder once the initial public reaction had cooled, thereby maximizing their effect while avoiding the pitfall of keeping the conversation centered on the perceived humiliation of losing the high-profile Grammys. The reasoning behind DJ Academics' advice becomes clear when evaluated objectively. Drake, despite being one of the most commercially successful and culturally influential artists in the world, stood to gain almost nothing from continuing a direct, public confrontation with Lamar at that point. Every reaction or counterattack broadcasted publicly would have kept the audience focused on his losses and Lamar's triumph, potentially prolonging a narrative that he had already endured on one of the largest national stages. Conversely, by choosing restraint, Drake could conserve his reputation, protect his personal brand, and maintain leverage for future creative moves, ensuring that when he did release responses, they would have maximum cultural and artistic impact rather than simply serving as defensive measures. Essentially, engaging immediately carried a high reputational risk with little upside, while silence offered the opportunity to regain control of the story on his own terms.
Yeah, these are talking about each other's kids.
That's what I'm saying.
On songs, talking about each other's actual children.
The 2025 Grammy Awards turned into the epicenter of what many are already calling the most explosive and culturally charged hip-hop feud of all time. Kendrick Lamar didn't just dominate the night, he detonated it. As he walked away with 5 Grammy trophies, thousands of voices inside the arena echoed chants aimed directly at Drake, turning an awards show into something closer to a public tribunal. And just when it seemed like the moment couldn't get any more surreal, a video surfaced online claiming to reveal something nobody saw coming. What that footage appeared to show would push the night from historic to potentially unprecedented. The moment everything shifted happened on February 2nd, 2025, at the 67th Annual Grammy Awards inside Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. This was not your standard industry celebration filled with polite applause, rehearsed gratitude, and safe speeches. This was a night fueled by tension, rivalry, and unresolved accusations. Kendrick Lamar entered the ceremony with 7 nominations and left with 5 wins, all tied to one song, Not Like Us. That track wasn't just a diss record, it was an indictment. In it, Lamar accused Drake of being a certified predator and a cultural opportunist who had allegedly profited off black culture for over a decade without truly belonging to it. The audience inside the arena didn't just listen to those lyrics, they knew them by heart. As Lamar approached the stage to accept his awards, thousands of people chanted lines from the song in unison. The chants included references to minors and allegations so severe that they would later become central to multiple federal lawsuits. The atmosphere was electric but also dangerous, legally speaking. The Recording Academy clearly recognized the risk. Shortly after the ceremony, official Grammy uploads on YouTube noticeably muted or removed the crowd audio during Lamar's acceptance moments, a move widely interpreted as an attempt to shield the organization from potential legal fallout. Lamar's appearance that night was just as deliberate as his music. He arrived wearing a full Canadian tuxedo, denim jacket, denim jeans, head to toe. At a formal awards ceremony known for couture and luxury fashion, the outfit stood out immediately. For casual viewers, it might have seemed like an odd stylistic choice. For anyone following the feud closely, it was unmistakably intentional. The denim-on-denim look was widely read as a pointed jab at Drake's Canadian identity and Toronto roots. Every visual choice Lamar made reinforced the themes he had been pressing throughout the battle: authenticity versus image, culture versus commerce. Host Trevor Noah leaned directly into the tension. Addressing Lamar on stage, he joked, "I thought about roasting you," before adding that he remembered what Kendrick can do to light-skinned men from other countries. The line sent the crowd into hysterics, drawing prolonged laughter and applause. Lamar smiled it off, relaxed and unbothered, carrying himself like someone who knew the fight was already over. He didn't need to say anything. The room had already said it for him. Drake, notably, was nowhere in sight. He skipped the Grammys entirely, choosing not to attend an event that had effectively turned into a televised celebration of his public dismantling. His absence only amplified the symbolism of the night, one artist elevated, the other conspicuously missing. But the story didn't end when the trophies were handed out. Hours after the ceremony concluded, a grainy video began circulating across social media at a startling pace. The footage, clearly recorded on a phone by someone attempting to stay unnoticed in a crowded environment, appeared to capture a heated confrontation backstage or possibly at a private after-party. 2 men could be seen arguing intensely. One bore a striking resemblance to Drake. The other looked uncannily like Kendrick Lamar. In the audio, a voice could be heard shouting, "Get your hands off me, Kai, do it then." Emojis floated across the screen, suggesting the clip had originally been posted to Instagram or Snapchat stories before being screen-recorded and redistributed. Within hours, the footage was everywhere. YouTube channels rushed to upload reaction videos with sensational thumbnails and titles promising viral fight footage. Comment sections erupted as fans dissected every frame, debated the authenticity, and claimed to recognize specific locations within the arena or well-known Los Angeles after-party venues. Whether real or fabricated, the video poured gasoline on an already raging fire. What had begun as a lyrical war had now spilled into visual rumor, speculation, and potential real-world consequences, pushing this feud into territory hip-hop had never fully seen before.
Hip-hop, as usual, man. I'm not good at talking about myself, but I express it through the music. It's an honor to be here. Tyler, the Clips, like these are my brothers to be in this category. What's up, Push, man? Malice, man.
The sheer volume and velocity of content produced during this conflict was unlike anything hip-hop had ever seen before. In the span of just a few weeks, 8 diss tracks were released, each escalating the tension and pushing the boundaries further than the last. Every response felt more personal, more aggressive, and more destructive, creating a snowball effect that grew larger with each release. The rapid pace left no room for reflection or strategic silence. Both artists were forced to react almost immediately, sometimes within hours, resulting in music that felt raw, emotionally charged, and stripped of the polish normally associated with major album releases. That urgency created chaos, and chaos is exactly where misinformation thrives. This breakneck exchange created the perfect ecosystem for fake content to spread. Fans, commentators, and even seasoned observers struggled to separate verified facts from manufactured narratives. In an environment where new claims emerged daily and audio, video, and screenshots circulated endlessly, the line between reality and fabrication became dangerously thin. The confusion was not accidental. It was a direct byproduct of how modern technology has reshaped the way hip-hop culture processes evidence, credibility, and truth. To understand why fake fight footage and fabricated clips spread so effortlessly, it is necessary to understand how deeply artificial intelligence has embedded itself into hip-hop culture. While AI did not originate in rap feuds, it found fertile ground there almost immediately. Hip-hop has always thrived on exaggeration, performance, and carefully constructed personas. Rappers have long blurred the line between who they are and who they present themselves to be. Deepfakes fit naturally into that tradition, amplifying it with technology capable of making fiction look and sound real. Around 2020, experimental AI content began appearing online, driven by major advancements in machine learning, generative adversarial networks, and text-to-speech models such as Google's Tacotron 2. These systems could analyze speech patterns, vocal cadence, tone, and rhythm, then reproduce them with eerie precision. The results were often impressive, unsettling, and impossible for casual listeners to immediately distinguish from authentic recordings. The first major hip-hop audio deepfake surfaced when a YouTube voice synthesis channel released clips featuring an AI-generated Jay-Z voice performing Shakespeare's To Be or Not to Be and Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire. The timing, inflection, and delivery were disturbingly accurate. These clips went viral almost overnight, spreading across social media platforms at lightning speed. Roc Nation, Jay-Z's label, issued DMCA takedown requests, citing unlawful impersonation. However, the videos were eventually reinstated, as current copyright law does not protect vocal style itself. This legal gray area would later become a critical fault line in future conflicts involving AI. Kendrick Lamar himself introduced deepfake technology to mainstream hip-hop audiences in a very different context. His 2022 music video for The Heart Part 5 featured Lamar's face seamlessly morphing into a series of prominent Black cultural figures, including Kanye West, Will Smith, O.J. Simpson, Nipsey Hussle, Kobe Bryant, and Jussie Smollett. The video explored themes of accountability, cancel culture, and the complex relationship between Black celebrities and public judgment in America. The technology was widely praised as an artistic tool rather than condemned as manipulation. Smollett later stated publicly that he had no objection to his inclusion, reinforcing the idea that intent and consent matter. That distinction, intent versus exploitation, became increasingly important as AI use accelerated. By 2023, the floodgates were fully open. An AI-generated track titled Heart on My Sleeve, which convincingly replicated Drake and The Weeknd's voices and stylistic signatures, amassed millions of streams across major platforms. Before Universal Music Group intervened and demanded its removal, Drake publicly expressed frustration, calling the situation a breaking point in his ongoing battle against unauthorized AI use of his voice and artistic identity. The irony of what followed cannot be overstated. Less than a year later, Drake would employ the very same technology he had criticized, turning it into a weapon against Kendrick Lamar. With the release of tailor-made Freestyle, Drake used AI-generated voices of Tupac Shakur and Snoop Dogg to taunt Lamar, placing words in the mouths of both a living legend and a deceased icon. For many observers, this move crossed a moral and ethical line. Even Drake's most loyal supporters struggled to defend the decision. After months of condemning AI manipulation as dangerous and disrespectful, he leveraged it against an artist who could no longer consent or object. Tupac's estate responded swiftly and decisively through legal counsel, calling the track a blatant violation of Tupac's legacy and threatening aggressive legal action. Within days, Drake removed the song. But the damage was already done. His credibility on the AI issue had collapsed, and the contradiction became a permanent stain on the narrative surrounding the beef.
Every time I tell you this, hip-hop is gonna always be right here. We're gonna be in these suits, we're gonna be looking good, we're gonna be having our folks with us, we're gonna be having the culture with us. So I appreciate y'all. God is the glory. Love y'all.
Even prominent media figures such as Joe Rogan, along with a wide array of guests who appear on his podcast, have openly speculated about the possibilities if Kendrick Lamar and Drake were ever to unexpectedly encounter one another in person, particularly in a situation where neither had the protection of security personnel. The hypothetical scenarios they discuss often focus on the obvious physical disparity between the two artists. Drake possesses a noticeably taller and more muscular frame than Lamar, standing several inches above him and carrying significantly more mass. This physical advantage suggests, in purely theoretical terms, that Drake could overpower Lamar in a confrontation that boiled down exclusively to raw strength and size. Yet, despite these frequent discussions and repeated public interest in the topic, it is essential to emphasize that all such speculation remains entirely theoretical. There is no verified evidence that any actual confrontation, physical or otherwise, has occurred between the two artists, even though the tension between their camps has been steadily escalating over many years. Just 1 week after cementing his dominance at the Grammys with a historic haul of 5 awards, Kendrick Lamar took the stage at Super Bowl LX on February 9, 2025. Performing in front of the largest television audience of the year, Lamar closed the halftime show with the incendiary track Not Like Us, which directly targeted Drake and called out allegations surrounding his conduct with a minor. The performance was carefully staged for maximum impact. During the specific verses that referenced Drake, Esir, a figure who had previously been romantically linked to Drake and had been alluded to in multiple diss tracks from both camps, made a deliberate and highly visible appearance on stage. Fans immediately noted the significance of her cameo, interpreting it as a subtle but intentional nod to the ongoing feud. In addition, Serena Williams, who had also been referenced in the diss track and whose long-standing friendship with Drake had been the subject of speculation for years, appeared in the performance as well, creating what many observers interpreted as a coordinated visual statement reinforcing Lamar's triumph over his rival. The entire halftime show functioned as a publicized victory lap, with Lamar grinning directly at the cameras during the most pointed lines, ensuring that the message was broadcast to over 100 million viewers watching live, both across the United States and around the world. Throughout the broadcast, Drake remained entirely absent, offering no public response to what was, effectively, Lamar's theatrical and highly visible declaration of supremacy. While the musical rivalry was reaching fever pitch, the legal dimension of the feud was quietly beginning to take shape and would ultimately prove far more consequential than any live performance, award ceremony, or viral clip. In November 2024, Drake initiated a lawsuit against Universal Music Group, UMG, filing detailed court documents that alleged the label had artificially inflated streams for Lamar's Not Like Us. The filings also accused UMG of actively defaming Drake through promotional strategies designed to maximize the impact of a track that leveled serious criminal allegations against him. According to the court filings, Drake alleged that UMG paid influencers and employed automated bots to create the appearance of organic cultural dominance, inflating numbers far beyond what genuine fan engagement would have produced. UMG, in response, categorically denied all allegations, describing the lawsuit as completely without merit and asserting that the claims were baseless and legally unfounded. Lamar himself was not named as a defendant in the case, but the artistic feud was inextricably intertwined with every aspect of the legal filings, making it impossible to separate the music from the litigation. As of early 2026, the lawsuit continues to progress, with Drake's legal team expanding their claims against UMG in subsequent filings, turning the dispute into one of the most complex and closely followed legal battles in contemporary music history, merging issues of intellectual property, digital streaming manipulation, and the ongoing personal feud between two of hip-hop's most influential figures.